5 seconds to go. Start. Being aggrieved by the order passed by the High Court in its revisional jurisdiction and issuing certain directions, appellants have come up before this court. The appellants herein, the original plaintiffs and the legal representatives of one of the original plaintiffs. First three appellants are the original plaintiffs, while the other three are the legal representatives of one Vijay Kumar, who was the original plaintiff number 2. During the pendency of this appeal, appellant number 1 died on 28th November 2007. Wide order dated 25th March 2008. His legal representatives were brought on record. They filed a suit for perpetual injunction against the respondents' defendants, whose defense was that the appellant's plaintiffs were encroaching upon the portion of land which they alleged to have purchased and which is adjacent to the land in question. The location, identification, and plaintiff's title and possession over the suit land was not controverted by the respondents' defendants in their written statement. Two issues came to be framed, and subsequently two additional issues also came to be framed, and ultimately the suit was decreed after about 14 years of its filing by the Court of Sub-Judge Srinagar. Admittedly, this judgment had become final since no appeal was filed against this judgment. However, since the respondents' defendants did not obey the terms of the decree and did not allow the appellant's plaintiffs to fence the land which was in their possession, execution application was filed in March 1987 for issuing directions to the respondents' defendants to comply with the terms of decree dated 18th October 1984. An objection came to be raised by the judgment debtors before the executing court that the decree was unexecutable since the identity of the land in respect of which the decree was passed was itself not established. This objection was upheld by the executing court by its order dated 21st June 1988. Against this order, a revision petition was filed by the appellants herein before the High Court wide revision number 153 of 1988. The revision stood allowed by the High Court by its judgment dated 25th August 1998, whereby the order of the executing court was set aside and the executing court was directed to proceed with the execution of the decree. The High Court had observed in the judgment that the executing court had not taken any steps to identify the suit land, though the factors like extent and limits of the suit land were available. Therefore, it was recommended that a commissioner should be appointed for local investigation, and if required, the oral evidence also could be taken. The High Court further observed that even the site plan coupled with the permission of Srinagar municipality to raise the wall accorded to the decree holders for fencing or walling of the suit land was not taken into consideration, and it appeared that the executing court had gone by whatever had been raised and stated by the judgment debtors alone without arriving at an independent decision regarding executability of the decree in totality of facts and circumstances of the case. Briefly stated, the facts are that the landlord respondent filed suit for recovery of arrears of rent and ejectment with the allegation that the petitioner was a tenant of the disputed accommodation on monthly rent of rupees 50. Besides, he was liable to pay rupees 20 per month as electricity charges and rupees 7.50 per month towards house and water tax as part of rent. The tenant failed to pay arrears of rent after September 1982. He gave a notice demanding arrears of rent and terminating the tenancy. The petitioner, after having received it, did not comply with the same. The petitioner contested the suit. It was alleged that the rate of rent was rupees 20 per month. He admitted his liability to pay electricity charges at the rate of rupees 20 per month as well as water tax and house tax. He denied that he had received any notice. The trial court recorded a finding that the petitioner had received the notice. The rate of rent was rupees 50 per month, and in addition to it rupees 20 per month as electricity charges and rupees 7.50 per month towards house and water tax as part of the rent. This finding has been affirmed by the revisional court. The petitioner had also claimed the benefit of provisions of section 24 of the act. The core question is whether the petitioner is liable to deposit electricity charges as well to get the benefit of the provisions of subsection 4 of section 20 of the act. There was no written agreement between the parties to show that rupees 20 per month was being charged towards electricity charges as part of the rent. The plaintiff and defendant both appeared in the witness box. The plaintiff, as PW4, stated that the defendant was liable to pay rupees 50 per month as the rent of the accommodation, rupees 20 per month towards electricity charges, and rupees 7.50 per month towards house tax. Section 105 of the Transfer of Properties Act defines the lease. The lessor is entitled to get consideration for the lease from the lessee which is agreed between the parties. In case a lessor provides other amenities or furniture in addition to the accommodation which has been let out, unless the intention of the parties is that the amount fixed for providing such amenities be also treated as rent, the amount taken separately for furniture and other amenities may not form part of rent. Normally, the electricity charges are taken by the landlord for the purpose that he is providing electricity to the tenant, and for such facility he has to pay the amount of electricity charges to the electricity board or such authority from whom the electricity connection has been taken, and the landlord is liable to pay for the consumption of electricity by the tenant. In absence of any specific agreement or proof in this respect, it cannot always be termed that the amount of electricity charges forms part of the rent. Stop.